The world's greatest geologist is on the verge of his next billion-dollar discovery. With looming shortages in copper, zinc, gold, and silver, this may be the best opportunity hard asset investors have ever faced. Learn more at futuremoneytrends.com/hardassets.
The people in this industry and the people who are listening to your podcasts are fairly well informed, more so than the majority of the public who seem to react to when prices are moving higher.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And what I did want to ask, which is kind of like a tangent to what we were just talking about, is do you see other factors that also cause people to buy? For instance, when Obama became president, ammo sales went through the roof. Has Jade Helm, for instance, had an impact on people going in to buy more precious metals as a sign of the times? I know a lot of people are up in the air with what's going on with the gay marriage ruling. I mean, is that like a sign of the times that people are kind of running to you guys and say, hey, because there's a lot of people who have issues with that and they're relating that to a lot of end time sort of things. And I'm just curious, are there other factors that cause people to kind of go to gold and silver as well?
I think it's a culmination. I mean, when you take a look around us, it's a different world than I grew up in, and I'm almost 45. I'm still relatively young, I guess, and it's a vastly different world than I grew up in, just watching it through the eyes of my three children. And I think it's a culmination. There are a lot of people who are very frightened about many things, whether it be economic, whether it be political, whether it be spiritual, moral. There are a lot of things that, in particular, lead back to prophecy and lead back to a form of everything converging all at once. And so I think that, it's not just one thing. And even if people can't articulate what it is that's bothering them, making them uneasy or uncomfortable, I think it's a culmination of all of these things that are happening so frequently and with greater severity that long time ago would have turned the world upside down, now are just considered part of the fabric. All these giant Ponzi schemes we're seeing and problems we're seeing with the presidency, how spying on Congress. Well, many years ago that he would have been impeached. There are lots of things that are happening with greater frequency, greater severity, that just seem to be accepted. And I think it's making people very uneasy, one thing after another, and then you throw in the geopolitical stuff and the all the stuff we're seeing with race and with class inequality, and it's I think it's just one thing after another. So I don't know if there's any one thing in particular. I think it's just people are exhausted with being bombarded with one thing after another. And so when the price doesn't mesh or jibe with what's frustrating for people, and that's kind of the one puts the brakes on people, I think, just running outright into alternatives to the dollar.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I want to shift over and just ask you, what is the seasonal price action for precious metals without any extraordinary events? What can we, historically expect, in the summer? What can we historically expect at the beginning of the year? And just kind of looking at precious metals from a seasonal cyclical cycle without any major events happening.
Typically, the summer is very slow, and the fall, right around Labor Day, things start to pick up. A lot of Europe is vacationing in the summer. People are more concerned with being outside and enjoying summer than they are looking at their portfolios. So I think that in terms of seasonality, this is typically the slowest part of the year. And as we get closer to fall, you see things pick up. And this year in particular, there are a lot of rumblings of this IMF meeting in October being very significant, in that some people think that the Chinese will try to issue a new gold-backed currency in October. In fact, I was reading an article by Steve Sugarrood recently where he was taking a photograph of a billboard near the Shanghai airport, and the billboard. Just a second, see if I can even find it here. The billboard talked about the renminbi as being the new, or being a world reserve currency, or a world currency, I think, as they called it. And the O in world was a gold coin, a hand putting a gold coin in there. And there are a lot of people who think that that will happen sometime in October, at the end of October, during the IMF meeting. I have long felt that the Chinese will try to issue some sort of a commoditized backed currency to challenge the dollar for world supremacy. And in that environment, if that were ever to happen, you would see things take off real quick, change very, very, very quick. And so that's this fall. And so I think it may be an interesting few months leading up to that, as people are starting to look at things a little bit differently as to what could happen.
And then I wanted to ask you a question about bullion in general and coins, and kind of the underlying premise of are all bullion coins created equally? And you talked about the maple leafs having a significant premium when the prices collapsed. I have maple leafs. I also own some junk silver. What is the market out there for some of these different coins? I assume the maple leafs have a much more liquid market than my junk silver, but should I be concerned with which bullion I'm buying versus other?
I think there are 5 major mints out there that you want to focus on. There's the U.S. mint, the Canadian mint, South Africa, Austria, and Australia. Anything out of those 5 mints will give you great liquidity. It's basically Pepsi, Coke, 7-Up, Sprite, and A&W root beer. Take your pick. Those five mints will be synonymous with quality. So I think as long as you don't cross the penny wise pound foolish threshold, which is, I think, pretty visible in this industry, you're okay. Meaning you don't want to buy big bars in lieu of a 1 ounce piece, and if you stick with anything issued by those 5 major mints, you're just fine. I guess my favorite items right now would either be out of the U.S. mint or the Canadian mint. Royal Canadian Mint, I think, is probably the finest mint in the world. Their coins are the purest in the world. Their silver coins are the only 4.9 fine silver coin. And they have a new series that, actually not too new, they've been doing it since 2011 in silver and since last year in gold, called the Call of the Wild series and the Birds of Prey series. The Call of the Wild gold coins are the purest gold coins in the world. They're 5.9 fine, and they're priced as a gold eagle. They're not priced as numismatic collector coins, yet their mintages are extremely limited. Their purity is unparalleled, and the demand is unlike anything I've ever seen. So if I were going to be buying anything right now, it would be the Call of the Wild series in gold and the Birds of Prey series in silver. Those items are the first items that I've ever sold in 26 years that have numismatic potential. I have never seen bullion items carry this kind of demand or this kind of premium in the secondary market. So while you can't go wrong buying Eagles, you can't go wrong buying regular Canadian Maple Leafs for a very, very small premium to a regular Maple Leaf, typically 1% or 50 cents in silver. These Call of the Wild and Birds of Prey Royal Canadian Mint products are, without question, my favorite item that I've sold, bullion item, ever in 25 years. That would be my number one choice.
No, that's really interesting. And so what about some of those junk silver coins, I'm just curious, what about like those dimes and old quarters, 1960s, 1950 quarters, and things like that, the half dollars? Do those, would you say, have a lot smaller market in terms of liquidity?
Yeah, they do. The thing about junk silver is that it used to be called junk silver because I could buy it at under melt value and sell it to you for melt value or just a few cents above. And the term junk really referred to the fact that it carried no extra premium above its melt value. And in fact, because it was such a pain in the butt, it would actually, to the dealers and sometimes to clients, be priced at under melt value. 10,000 dimes or 4,000 quarters or 2,000 half dollars or any mix thereof that equals $1,000 face is considered a bag of junk silver. The thing of it now is that it's not so much junk. My cost on a bag of junk silver is very close to what it costs for me to buy a silver maple leaf or the equivalent thereof. In other words, it's anything but junk anymore. And so I like junk silver, but if for my money, if you're going to be paying roughly the same price as a silver maple leaf, you're far better off buying a silver maple leaf. And I don't care that a silver maple leaf is 14 times bigger than a 1 ounce or a one silver dime. One silver dime, 14 of them equals an ounce almost exactly. And that's kind of the problem, is that people don't know how much silver is in it. They don't even know that a pre-65 dime is silver. 9 out of 10 people would look at you and say, Ken, what the hell do I want one of those for? And so I think that you're put into a position, no, listen, this is really silver. See, it's 1962, or whatever year it is, pre-65. Look, you tell them, no, prior to 1965, there was 90% silver by weight. And they'd say, well, Ken, how much silver is in that dime? I don't even think most of my clients know. Typically, 1 out of 100 may even know this. And 10,000 dimes equals 700, and even the industry is confused about it, in the respect that the industry will tell you that a bag of junk silver weighs 715 ounces. But in reality, if you had uncirculated coins, they're 723 ounces. And the industry will tell you that over the last 60 years, that these coins have been run through coin counters and been in circulation, that up to 8 ounces of silver has worn off. So the industry uses 715 instead of 723. So let's call it 715, or pretend it's 723 if it's uncirculated. And the person asks you how much silver is in there. Well, you take 723 and divide it by 10,000, and that's how much silver is in each dime. 0.000723 of an ounce. And so 14 of them equals 1 ounce. The point is that it's less liquid. They're not as pretty. It's more flexible. But I think that the illiquidity that you get by people not understanding it and maybe not even believing it at first, maybe that information disseminates to the public eventually, but in a currency crisis where people buy this stuff for, I question the wisdom when it creates a whole lot of uncertainty in the minds of the people who you would be trying to trade with. When you show someone a 1 ounce maple leaf and put it in their hand, or a 1 ounce American Eagle, most people are awestruck by it who've never held a coin before. And the feeling, the look, the beauty, it's something that elicits an emotion out of people that you don't get by giving them an old, dirty 45-year-old dime or quarter. So if you can buy it at the right price, it makes good sense. Yeah, well, it is young in terms of flesh and bone, but in terms of a dime, not so much. And typically, a 45-year-old who works out at the gym once in a while looks better than a 45-year-old dime that's all black and dirty. And the point of it is simply this: that I like junk silver. It's okay if you can buy it at the right price, but at these prices, I think you're way better off buying 715 silver maple leafs for almost the exact same price as a bag of junk silver containing 715 ounces. And if it were my money, I wouldn't even think twice.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. And Andy, I do want to thank you for coming on with me today. And if people did want to reach out to you and learn more about Miles Franklin, where would they go, and how would they get a hold of you guys?
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that, and I'll answer that in a roundabout way real quick. I'm sure you have time constraints, but I think it's very important to know that we've been in business for 26 years. Not only is our reputation as good as anyone's, we've never had a customer complaint. We've never lost a package in $5 billion in transactions. But Minnesota currently is the only state in America, the only, that is regulating precious metals dealers. We are beholden to the Commissioner of Commerce. We are all licensed and bonded as if we sold stocks or insurance. All of our employees are background checked, and we have a $200 million plus, it's $220, I think, $1 million surety bond in place to safeguard and protect our clientele. If they do want to get a hold of us, we do publish a daily newsletter. You can sign up for it for free and read guys like Andy Hoffman and Bill Holter and others. And our website is milesfranklin.com. We will have a new website online within the next couple of weeks, I hope. It's almost done. We'll allow people to do more things online than we do currently. But you can call us at 800-822-8080 or go online at milesfranklin.com. And we're about education and answering questions and relationships. And as a president of the company, I take phone calls 7 days a week till 10 o'clock at night on my cell phone. I'm accessible. We're all accountable. And we appreciate, and I very much, Ken, appreciate the opportunity to be on with you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right, Ken, you take care, buddy.